This is Stephanie Holowinski from Southern Tier Human Science Radio. Today we are speaking with Olivia Fitzpatrick, a graduate student in the Occupational Therapy Department at Ithaca College. Hi Olivia, how are you doing today, and what will we be discussing with you?
Hi Stephanie, I'm doing well. How are you? Today I will be discussing fetal alcohol spectrum disorders in school-age children, its impact on the child's academic performance, and whether providing occupational therapy services to these children will improve their academic performance in areas such as handwriting, as compared to the academic performance of similar peers not receiving OT services.
I'm doing well, thank you. Wow, that sounds like quite a topic. So let's begin by hearing a little about how you became so interested in this population and this topic.
All right, so 3 years ago I worked at a summer camp called Crandall Beach Camp. This camp's mission is to provide a safe, fun, enriching summer camp experience for both children from the inner city Buffalo and for children diagnosed with various disabilities such as Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, or FASD for short. I had a camper diagnosed with FASD, and I remember being completely blown away by the humor, strength, bravery, and determination this camper presented herself with. We bonded quite a lot throughout her session, and she confided in me many tough situations she had endured in just her young life that I still think about to this day. I remember leaving camp and wondering how she functioned in the world that wasn't camp. How was she at home, and how did her home life shape her? How did she function at school? What were her academic strengths and weaknesses? And were these being properly addressed? Her life experiences and personality had such a profound effect on my life, and I think that's why I've become so interested in this topic and advocating for individuals like my camper.
Wow, what a journey that girl must be on, and the effect it had on your life can be shown through this description. Thank you for sharing. So what is fetal alcohol spectrum disorder exactly?
So FASD occurs when an expecting mother consumes alcohol and the alcohol is transferred to the fetus through the placenta. The alcohol has a higher concentration in the placenta because the fetus has not developed enough to correctly process alcohol like full-grown adults typically can.
Drinking while pregnant seems like a total taboo these days. What does FASD lead to?
I agree that many women now know not to drink while pregnant. However, cases still occur, but fortunately, the amount of children born with FASD has decreased. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that one child out of a group of 20 school-age children is born and diagnosed with FASD. This estimation was made earlier in 2016, so pretty relevant. FASD leads children to experience limitations with their ability to grow. Infants born with FASD are typically born with low birth weight and may have trouble maintaining their weight for the remainder of their lives. They have abnormal functioning in their central nervous system because of delayed development of the mind and limitations with intellect. And most recognizable is the dysmorphia of the facial structures. Individuals born with FASD may have a smaller size head, smaller eyes, flattened cheekbones, and little to no upper lip formation. In relation to academia and school-age children specifically, there are a multitude of limitations to academic success faced by children diagnosed with FASD due to their delayed or underdeveloped brain functioning. Visual motor and fine motor skills are two areas that can be greatly limited with this population. And this limitation greatly impacts academic success. Visual motor and fine motor skills play a crucial role in a child's ability to produce legible handwriting, the child's ability to copy and learn from what's written on the school chalkboard or whiteboard, the child's ability to use scissors to cut something out or to color in a drawing. In addition, memory and attention of these children can be limited, which will impact the child's ability to learn various lessons and retain what they've learned from these lessons. A child with FASD may demonstrate difficulties with interpersonal skills or may exhibit negative behaviors, causing them to take trips to the principal's office, This interruption can happen many times throughout their day, and it's just taking time away from them being able to learn and progress academically. And if a child's not having success with school activities due to a limitation with either their visual motor, fine motor, attention, memory, interpersonal skills, or their inability to regulate their behaviors, where is this child likely to progress towards? OTs understand how important all these skills are in a school environment, and we have the skills to implement various interventions to help these children gain proper functioning of these skills.
It's good to know that the prevalence of children being diagnosed with FASD is decreasing. It seems like these individuals can have a significantly difficult life due to whatever limitations they may have. I would agree that school-based children could benefit from receiving OT services to supplement their academic performance. What support have you found regarding your stance on this issue?
So, much of the support I've found comes from published research. Many studies have stated that there is an increased need for OT professionals to work with children diagnosed with FASD in the school setting to address mainly their visual motor and fine motor skill limitations of these children. This isn't surprising because in many school settings, the OT is sent into classrooms because of a handwriting issue, which stems from the visual motor and fine motor functioning of a child, as I've pointed out above. So I have brought some research with me today to just give you a little synopsis of it. Duval, White, Jurowick, Rios, Dietz, and Olson, 2013, conducted a level 6 or descriptive study which examined functional handwriting in a group of 20 children ages 7 to 13 years old who were diagnosed with FASD. The researchers examined the children's handwriting legibility, as they wrote single letters from the alphabet from memory, their legibility as the children copied a single sentence, and their legibility as the children wrote down a simple paragraph. The legibility scores on these 3 writing tasks were poor overall, and researchers state only about 1/3 of children demonstrated letter writing legibility within the average range for their age group. Researchers also noticed that the child's handwriting speed became poorer when the complexity of the task increased. So when these children went from writing a single letter to writing a sentence, their speed would decrease. Researchers looked at the child's sensory motor functioning because they had a hypothesis that maybe the texture of the pencil or the paper or the force of going into writing could be an impact or a factor that is a barrier to successful handwriting legibility for these children. But this area was within average range given these children's age. And finally, the researchers, the researchers looked at the children's visual motor functioning, and they found that visual motor skills of these children were poor and decreased the complexity of a task, or decreased as the complexity of the task increased. So these researchers concluded that OTs working in the school setting should provide timely and adequate evaluations and interventions focused on handwriting, the skills needed for handwriting, visual motor and fine motor and sensory motor, and the components of handwriting, legibility, speed, etc. With children diagnosed with FASD, to better care for and facilitate these children's successful engagement in school. So the next study, Donnie et al. 2016, these researchers conducted a level 3 quasi-experimental study which investigated the graphomotor skills of 108 children ages 7.5 to 9.5 years old who had prenatal exposure to alcohol. These researchers examined the children's grasp, pressure, legibility, and drawing ability. Researchers found that the children demonstrated poor legibility, grasp patterns were not always mature, so they were seeing that the thumb was crossing over the fingers and the writing utensil or pencil instead of resting laterally on the side of the pencil, which is seen in more mature grass patterns, and that this grass pattern was not always consistent. Um, these children wrote with lots of pressure emitting from their hands, and drawing ability, however, was not an area of significant concern upon the researchers' findings. The researchers conclude with the encouragement of better OT involvement with evaluating and intervening this population of children in regards to handwriting. And finally, Donnie et al. 2014, these researchers conducted a level 1 systematic review. Researchers ended up examining 24 studies that focused on children with FASD and their fine motor skill functioning. So like what's been found in the above studies, the researchers of this one found that children with FASD had difficulty with complex fine motor skill-based tasks, and visual motor functioning of these tasks was also low performing or poor. The researchers also note that assessment tools, which focus just on fine motor tasks, gave more consistent limitation results of these children as compared to assessment tools that focused on motor skills in a more general fashion. This, I believe, further narrows down that children with FASD have more limitations in their fine motor skill functioning. And then these researchers conclude by saying that narrowing down the assessment tool to focus on just the fine motor skills versus focusing on fine motor and gross motor skills together can provide more accurate limitations these children present with. In turn, this information can lead therapeutic professionals working with these children to better develop interventions which really target the problem areas for these children.
So the support from research really guides you into working on handwriting with these children. I know some pediatric OTs are not big into handwriting. Are you one of them? And if so, how do you feel knowing that the research is currently backing it up?
I'm not going to deny it. I used to be an OT student that would say that handwriting is boring to focus on. However, in giving it more personal consideration and in reading and reviewing some of the literature I've presented here, I'm welcoming to the idea of being referred into a classroom to address a potential handwriting issue and starting the dynamic between handwriting and OT with a child who needs this service. What I frequently do is make a mundane topic less boring by relating it to a more fun activity. For example, the components of handwriting can be applied to other functional areas that children engage in, like play. Grasping or in-hand manipulation of a writing utensil can be seen, when a child is grasping and manipulating a paintbrush that's swirling around in a sensory bin full of colorful paint and shaving cream. Although additional factors will come into play here between these two activities, the principle of observing a child's grasping pattern and in-hand manipulation is still present.
That definitely sounds like a fun play experience. So I'm wondering, how would a child with FASD be referred to occupational therapy services in the schools?
I mean, it would come from observation from the child, teachers, and other professionals working with the child. And like I said, handwriting is a big topic for these individuals, but other observations going back to their behavioral functioning and their social skills, all those observations will go into play in determining whether a child may need some additional support to get through the school day. So once we get those observations and the teacher, feels like OT would benefit, probably have a team meeting to discuss how we go about that and get OT into that classroom.
Cool. Do you believe that there are some children with FASD who are not receiving the services?
I do. I know that this diagnosis isn't as prevalent, as, ADHD or autism as we're seeing today. But like I said, there are still cases of children who are diagnosed with FASD, and it's important to catch them when they come into our school systems pretty early, like early intervention services. I definitely push for these individuals. And I mean, I know I had the personal experience of working with an individual who's diagnosed with it. And it's not for everyone, but I think going into OT, we're always open to working with various individuals with various diagnoses. So I would definitely push for more treatment of these individuals and earlier screenings to make sure everything's going well or how we can help to make it go well.
Nice. What would a teacher also look for besides handwriting issues for referral of OT services?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to like their social functioning, their behavior in the classroom. Also, like at lunchtime, if there's problems, we do feeding and eating with children, play, engagement, and then if the parents are, fully active in the home and taking their own observations into account, the parents can come in and talk to the teacher and we just go from there, see where this child is having a limitation, going back to the gross motor or fine motor or a cognitive domain such as attention or memory. We just want to make sure all these things are working right so children are more successful in the classroom. Um, so, yeah, I mean, like, I think advocating for handwriting is great, but also OTs going into a pediatric practice and in the school system should also be advocating for the other services we can provide to help, depending on a child's individual case. Because not every child's going to have a problem with handwriting. As I recall, this camper that I worked with, she didn't have many limitations in handwriting. It was more attention and memory, cognitive type stuff that she'd be working on in the school setting. So I think as pediatric OTs in a school setting, we have a lot of advocacy to still do and discussions about our practice and what we can provide and how we collaborate that with what's going on for the child in their daily school time.
Wow, you sound very passionate about this topic.
Thank you.
Well, I think we're about to wrap up on time. Thank you so much for coming in and providing me with listeners that tuned in for more information on how OT can facilitate academic success with children diagnosed with FASD. I and everyone here at STHS Radio wish you luck while you continue in your studies.
Thank you so much for having me come on and for sending me away with well wishes. I hope you have a happy holiday season.
You too.
Thanks.